Welcome to episode 3 of Ready, Set, Sell with Michael Siervo. And your host today is Donnie Wong. Tune in, guys, because today is a powerful show. We're going to talk about the first 3 seconds. Completely make or break yourself. And we're going to get deep into this one because the first 3 seconds, if done wrong, you come off as an amateur, a complete amateur, or you're not prepared. However, if you nail it, you come off as the professional. You come off as someone who can handle themselves. You come off as someone who people want to do business with. Michael, what do you have to say about this?
You know, absolutely. It's interesting. You ever walk into a restaurant and you automatically know that this is a good server? That's
right.
And something to be said about that, there's servers that or waitresses or waiters that make substantially more tips than the other ones. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, it really comes down to that first 3 seconds, first 3 to 5 seconds. You walk in there, they approach you with a smile. You haven't even touched the food or looked at the menu. You're like, wow, I feel good. That server is an ambassador of the restaurant. So as a salesperson, you're the ambassador of your company, your vision, your goal. And so I really like how we take lessons on servers and waitresses, because those who can create that experience in that first 3 seconds automatically earn more. And as a salesperson, you want to earn more.
And that's what's incredible. It's such a great paradigm between salespeople and servers and waitresses and whatnot. Because when you get tipped on commission, which is what a tip is, you're in performance pay. And when you're in performance pay, there's more to it than just showing up and doing the job. You can't just show up and do the job. You can't go down the checklist. That doesn't cut it. So that's what we're going to talk about today, folks. We're going to go on how to master the first 3 seconds. Michael, what would you say the number one thing that you have to get right in the first 3 seconds to make a compelling, unforgettable impression?
So even before we get into this, if you haven't seen episode or heard episode 2, we talked about body language mastery. So it's a great segue into that episode, because we talked about how without nonverbal cues, how 80% of communication is essentially nonverbal. You know, when you're making that first impression, you haven't even said a word, and automatically people are judging you. So what I want to do is, what I think to make that good first impression, I think the first thing to do is it's done even before you're in the battlefield. You know, someone was telling me Monday Night Football is won not on that game. It's won on the week prior to it, of all the practicing, the hours and hours of practice. Once you get on the field, it's just executing what you've been practicing those many, many hours. So what I'm trying to say is I think you have to do your homework first and foremost. And so when I talk about homework is knowing what you're talking about, knowing your subjects, and also knowing who you're going to be talking with, your audience.
That's fascinating. Can we dig deep into knowing your audience? How do you do the homework in the audience?
You know, it's interesting because we live in a world where information is abundant. There's a cornucopia of information. It's such easy. You just Google Donnie Wong, Boost CBD, or Google Michael Siervo. You're going to see our names, right? And so never more in the history of mankind has information been at our fingertips. And if we can use that information, it's like a secret weapon, man. One thing that I would do is if I'm going to meet a prospect, I just Google their name. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as Googling their name, find out what their social media platform, what they're saying on their social media platforms. On a business standpoint, if you're not on LinkedIn, you're missing out. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk always talks about how LinkedIn is so important. Absolutely, as a salesperson, as a business person, because you know that there's some type of business relationship that can foster from there. And then on top of that, LinkedIn just gives you the person's entire resume.
So incredible. So incredible. I would like to also add into this, even though you've done your homework, and even though you're not going to really unleash the homework in the first 3 seconds, it's going to give you the confidence and the calm to understand that once we get past the first 3 seconds, we get past our pleasantries, we have so much to talk about. I could carry this conversation with you for over an hour, Mr. Customer. Right. But even if we don't say it, I know that we're going to develop a great relationship. Right. What are some key things that you would look for that you do during LinkedIn?
You know, it's one, I want to see what school they're from. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I like that. I want to see what school they're from, to be honest with you, because it just gives me an idea, because maybe I know the program, you know what their history is. You know, if they're in engineering, maybe you could have an engineering fact. If they're into sports, kinesiology, maybe the conversation could be in terms of sports. So you could use sports analogies in your sales pitch, whatever it might be. There's so many clues, and Anthony Robbins mentioned this. He goes, success leaves clues. So when I'm looking at social media, I just want to see if it's important for that person, they're going to post it. right? So it tells me, okay, that's important to them. I'm going to use that to the best of my advantage to be able to build a rapport. And really, that's all about building rapport is doing your homework. The other thing I just want to mention is something as simple as your very first meeting. If you don't like Mexican food and I say, hey, let's get together for lunch, it's like get to know each other over Mexican food. Already, this prospect, you didn't do your homework, they are not in the right mindset. They're, it's an uphill battle by then.
It's absolutely fascinating. I want to ask you about something. Once again, I learned so much from you. I've never even heard these two words put together, but now that we're on the power of LinkedIn, can you explain to the audience what recency heuristic means?
It's that's interesting. It's a cognitive bias in which the mind perceives the credibility of something to be proportional to the ease of remembering it. So if it's easier for you to remember, then it must be good. Great example. McDonald's is easy to remember. Coca-Cola is easy to remember. So if you're hungry, you go to McDonald's. You're thirsty, you go to Coca-Cola. So the easier it is to remember, the more credible it is. Great example going back to LinkedIn. If you're working your LinkedIn profile, if you're adding articles, all of a sudden they think you're a subject matter expert. One quick tip is change your LinkedIn photo maybe every couple of months, right? Because even though you haven't spoken to your 5,000 connections, you change that, all of a sudden it shows up that you just changed your profile, and they think that you're active. One of the things I used to do was I used to put my photo on my signature in my email. And then they would, we would talk to clients and ask them, well, when's the last time you spoke to Mike? You're like, oh, you know what? Actually, I speak to him quite frequently throughout the year, maybe 8 times to 12 times a year. Meanwhile, I've only spoken to him face-to-face or on the phone 3 or 4 times. It's because they saw my face. They thought it's easy to remember. They thought I was actually there.
Safe to say that's called front of mind.
Yeah,
keeping front of mind, top of funnel, whatnot. But I love the recency heuristic. Absolutely powerful. I do want to keep moving because we are running out of time, and there's just absolute bombs that we have to get through here. The last podcast, the one where we talked about body language, now that we've done our homework, we know the prospect. Now we're actually going to meet them at the location, their office, or whatever. When you enter the room, it is so essential that you enter it with poise and with confidence. Something that we talked about in the last episode was called the presidential walk. Mm-hmm. What do you got to say about the presidential walk? How do you enter into the 3 seconds?
It's that confidence, that smile. So when you walk into a restaurant, as that waitress is coming towards you, you could see that waitress smiling, and she has that, she's happy and she's happy to see you. It's funny. I used to tell people we could learn something from dogs, right?
Yes.
Because be like a dog, because no matter what, when they see you, they're just so happy to see you, right? And even though you have let's say a rough altercation with your dog, and you pooed on your lawn or whatever, or your carpet, and you got to go for work, when you come back, he's still happy to see you. So it's something simple like that. That first 3 seconds. I'm not saying that you got to run up and be excited, but you have to have that confidence that there is going to be a meaningful interaction here. It is intentional.
If you guys haven't heard episode 2 yet, the easiest way to practice a presidential walk and understand and visualize what we're talking about is actually YouTube and look up press conferences by presidents. Look up Putin, look up Trump, look up, but the best is Obama. Watch how they walk to the stage. It is poised, it is elegant, and it is confident. It is a world leader who's coming to address their land. Model that, and you can walk into the first 3 seconds, practically glide into the first 3 seconds. Absolutely. But Michael, if we're going to sit down, now you've walked in, you kind of have your entire mind loaded with facts, all kinds of great facts about your prospect. We're going to sit down. How do you introduce yourself to a prospect?
You know what? I think you have to have the confidence. You say your name with confidence. First of all, you say your name, you have gratitude, you say, thank you very much for your time. My name is so-and-so. And have an agenda in place. And this goes back to the homework. Because if you're going to meet with someone who's an influence maker or a decision maker, they're very pressed for time. So what I always do is I send an agenda beforehand. I email it to them beforehand. Here's what we're going to talk about, the 3 things. And the first topic is always blank. I tell them, hey, we could talk about all this stuff, but really what's more important to you, right? These are things I want to talk about, but maybe you want to talk about something else. Maybe something happened this morning. So you got to be flexible as well. Again, our goal as salespeople is to add value to that person, make their life better.
You know what I like about that is because if you have a meeting set down, that's going to get you further and farther. You're going to get the respect of your prospect. Now, if you're cold calling, like where my experience is, it's the exact same concept where when they open the door, when they pick up the phone, you gotta be quick, concise, and you gotta get your point out very, very, very quickly. They have to understand that you are bringing value and you're not wasting their time. Concepts that are very interchangeable. Awesome. We're heading into the last minute here. So now that we've sat them down, let's really talk about the end of the first 3 seconds, the handshake.
Absolutely. You know, a handshake, you just want to have a firm, solid handshake. You don't want a wet fish because no one wants to hold somebody's hand that's like soggy and wet. So just make sure you have a firm handshake. You're looking them in the eye. You could grasp their wrist. You could touch them on the shoulder, depending on what you want to do. You don't want to be pulling them in. It's not a dominant thing. I would say it's more of a respectful thing.
Well put. It's all about respect. That's it for today, guys. I know we went through rapid fire real quick, but it's only 3 seconds, and we took 11 minutes to break down 3 seconds. This is Ready, Set, Sell. We're going to break down the art, the science, and the craft of sales. You're sitting here with Michael Ciervo and your host today, Donnie Wong.
Get out there and sell, guys.